So let's just move on further towards the question number 3rd. And the question number 3rd says that construct the following angles and verify by measuring them with the help of a protractor. Okay, so the very first part is nothing but 75 degrees. The second part is 105 degrees. So first of all, we have to construct these angles, and further we have to verify that the measure that we are getting is actually a 75 degree or 105 degree using the protractor. So first of all, let us suppose if I'm starting with constructing the angle 75 degrees. So let us suppose if I'm taking a ray over here, let us suppose if I'm having a point over here and I'm taking a ray such that I'm calling this ray as nothing but OA. So the very first step of construction should be like I'm taking or I'm drawing a ray OA, and then moving on further using the compass again with any particular radius, and taking O as a center, I'm drawing an arc over here. Such that it is intersecting the ray OA at any particular point. Let us suppose I'm calling this particular point as nothing but B. Again, using the same radius, I am taking B as a center and marking an arc on this particular arc, and further taking this particular arc as a center, I'm taking an arc again or drawing an arc again, and I'm calling that particular arc as nothing but D. So on this arc we have further two arcs, that is C and D, and again using C and D as a center, with the help of the compass again, I'm marking the arcs over here in such a formation such that wherever the two arcs are intersecting each other, I'm calling this particular point as nothing but any point P, such that I'm drawing an arc from OP, which is of this form. As we all know, this angle is nothing but 90 degree, but we have to construct an angle whose measure is 75 degrees. So it means we have to move on further toward the another steps. So first of all, as I can see over here, this particular angle is nothing but 90 degree, and if I'll draw a ray through C, draw through C, this angle is nothing but 60 degree. So definitely an angle 75 degree is lying in between 60 and 90. So let's just draw an angle of 75 degree again using the C and this particular point. Let us suppose I'm calling this point wherever it is intersecting this particular arc as any point Q. So using C and Q as a center, I'm drawing arcs which are of this particular form. So first of all, taking Q as a center, I'm drawing an arc using the compass, and again taking C as a center, I'm further drawing an arc such that wherever it is intersecting, I'm calling this particular point as R, and I'm drawing a ray OR such that this angle is nothing but 75 degree, because as we have already seen that this angle, that is POA, is nothing but 90 degree, and if I'll draw a ray through C, this angle is 60 degree. So 60, or in between 60 degree and 90 degree, we have an angle 75 degree, which is also called as the angle bisector of the angle. If I'll draw a ray over here, let us suppose if I'll draw a ray from this point toward this ray, let us suppose if I'm drawing a ray from here of this form, then this angle is nothing but 60 degree. So POC is actually an angle bisector. As you can see, for POC angle, I have drawn an angle bisector which is nothing but 75 degree, because this angle and this angle, they both are equal to each other. So this is nothing but all about constructing an angle of 75 degree. So this is nothing but angle of 75 degree. So let's just let's just write some of the steps of constructions which are related with the construction of this particular angle, that is nothing but 75 degree. So let us suppose if I'm starting with the very first step. So the steps of constructions are like, the very first step is draw a ray OA. Further, we have the second step as taking O as a center, draw an arc that intersects the ray OA at B. The third step is taking B as a center, draw an arc, say C, and further taking C as a center, draw an arc, say D. So the fourth step would be like taking C and D as a center, taking C and D as a center, taking C and D as a center, draw two arcs, intersect each other at P, say, further draw a ray OP. So let us suppose this is nothing but a 90-degree angle, and further mark the point as Q, where OP cuts the arc BCD. Further, the step number 6, taking Q and C as a center, draw the arcs, intersect each other at R, say, further draw a ray OR. And the last step, that is the step number 7 is angle ROA is nothing but is equal to 75 degree is the required angle. This is nothing but the required angle, that is nothing but an angle ROA which is equal to 75 degree. And again, using the protractor, you can verify that whether this measure or this particular construction is actually an angle 75 degree or not. So using the protractor, again, you can verify that whether this ROA is coming out to be 75 degree or not. So this is all about the construction of an angle whose measure is nothing but 75 degrees. So let's just move on further toward the second part, which is 105 degree. Now let's just see the construction of the second part of this question, that is nothing but 105 degree. So again, first of all, for the construction of the angle whose measure is 105 degree, I am taking a ray first. So let us suppose I am first of all drawing a ray from this particular point O, and I am calling it as nothing but OA, and further taking O as a center using the compass, or for any particular radius I am drawing this particular arc such that it is intersecting OA at any particular point B. Again, taking B as a center using the compass, again I'm marking an arc on this particular arc and I'm calling it as nothing but C point, and further taking C as a center, I'm marking an arc again such that I'm calling this particular point as nothing but D. So again, taking C and D both as the centers using the compass, I'm marking the arc in such a formation such that both of the arcs wherever is intersecting, I'm calling this particular point as any point P, such that I'm drawing a ray from this particular point O toward this intersection such that this point is nothing but OP, and POA is actually an angle of 90 degree. Now we just wanted to construct an angle whose measure is 105 degrees. So as you can see, if this angle is 90 degrees, so if I'll draw a ray from O towards D, that is OD, that is suppose if I'm drawing a ray from O towards D, so let us suppose if this is the point D, so I'm drawing a ray from O, let us suppose this is my O. So from this O, if I'm drawing a ray of this particular formation, let us suppose this is the ray that I'm drawing. So this ray actually is constructing an angle which is nothing but 120 degree. So this angle is actually 120 degree. So 105 degree comes in between the angle 90 degree and 120 degree. So actually 105 degree is nothing but an angle which is also the angle bisector of 90 and 120. So first of all, in order to construct an angle of 105 degree, again I'm taking this particular point as any point Q. So let us suppose I'm marking this point as Q. So taking Q and D as a center, I'm marking the arcs again of this particular form, such that when O will join this point of intersection, this ray will form an angle of 105 degree, which also exists as the angle bisector of the angle POD. This is also an angle bisector of POD. So this angle ROA is nothing but an angle whose measure is 105 degrees. So this is nothing but an angle whose measure is 105 degrees. So let us suppose if I'll write it over here that this particular angle is nothing but 105 degree. This is nothing but 105 degree. And let's just draw or let's just write the steps of constructions that are related with it. So this is the measure 105. So let's just write the steps of constructions. The steps of construction involved with this particular angle. So first of all, the very first step that would be involved with the steps of construction is nothing but draw a ray OA. Second one is taking O as a center with any radius, mark an arc intersecting OA at B, say. Further, taking B as a center, mark an arc C, and taking C as a center, mark an arc D, say. Further, taking C and D as a center, mark two arcs intersecting each other at a point, say P. Join OP. Further, fifth, mark the point of intersection of the ray OP and arc BCD as Q. Further, sixth, taking Q and D as a center, mark two arcs intersecting each other at R, say join OR, and the seventh step would be like, seventh step is angle ROA is nothing but is equal to 105 degree is the the required angle. So this is all about the construction which is related with the 105 degree angle. And again, using the protractor, you can verify that whether this particular angle ROA is nothing but is equal to 105 degree or not. So this is all about the second part, that is the construction of an angle whose measure is nothing but 105 degree.